Somewhere in your life, there was a moment when you stopped being a child. Not gradually, not naturally, suddenly. Because something happened that made being a child no longer an option. Maybe it was a parent who was not there. Maybe it was a family that needed you to hold it together. Maybe it was pain that arrived before you had any tools to handle it. Whatever it was, your childhood ended. And you became something children were never supposed to become. Responsible, serious, self-sufficient, strong, and everyone called it maturity. They said it like it was a compliment. It was not a compliment. It was a wound dressed up as praise. Blott knows what that wound actually does to a person. Psychologists have a name for what happens when a child is forced into adult roles before they are ready. It is called parentification. It does not only mean a child who cooked and cleaned and raised their siblings. It also means a child who became the emotional support system for a parent. The child who listened to their parent cry at night. The child who felt responsible for their parent's happiness. The child who learned to read the room before they learned to read a book. That child did not have a childhood. They had a job, with no contract, no salary, no day off, and nobody asking how they were doing. The developmental stages, childhood exists to complete. The formation of identity, the freedom to play, the experience of being small in a safe world, none of those stages can be skipped without consequence. You cannot skip childhood. You can only delay it. And what is delayed does not disappear. It waits. Here is what growing up too fast actually creates in a person. It creates hypervigilance. The child who grew up in an unpredictable environment learned to scan constantly for danger, for shifts in mood, for signs that something was about to go wrong. That scanning never stops. As an adult, they walk into a room and immediately feel everyone's emotional state. They feel responsible for fixing tension they did not create. This is not a skill. It is a survival mechanism that never got the memo that the danger has passed. It creates an inability to rest. The child who was always needed, always responsible, always on call, grows into an adult who feels guilty when they relax, who cannot sit still without feeling they should be doing something. Rest feels dangerous, because for most of their childhood, the moment they stopped, something fell apart. It creates extreme self-sufficiency. They handle everything. They never ask for help. They make it look easy. And they are quietly exhausted in a way they cannot explain to anyone. It creates difficulty receiving love. They help everyone. They ask nothing in return. Not because they do not want love, because receiving it feels so unfamiliar, it registers almost as a threat. Nobody ever built the template for being cared for. It creates a deep fear of being a burden. My needs are too much. I am too much. It is better if I need nothing at all. That belief, installed before the age of 10, runs silently in the background of every relationship for the rest of their life. Now here is what all of this costs. It costs them their relationship with joy, not happiness, joy. The deep, purposeless joy children feel when they play. Adults who grew up too fast often cannot play. They can work, they can achieve. But purposeless joy, doing something with no outcome, no result, no use, feels almost physically uncomfortable. It costs them the ability to have needs without shame. Every time they need something, a voice inside them asks, is this need really valid? Am I allowed to want this? That voice sounds like their own, but it is not. It costs them their nervous system. Chronic childhood stress physically alters the developing brain. The threat detection center becomes overactive. The emotional regulation center develops more slowly. This is why adults who grew up too fast feel like they are overreacting to things others handle easily. They are not overreacting. Their nervous system is responding correctly for an environment that no longer exists. It cost them their sense of safety, so they built control instead. Because if you control everything, nothing can surprise you. Nothing can hurt you the way it hurt you before. Control is the architecture that replaces safety when safety was never available. Now we reach the part nobody ever talks about. What the child who grew up too fast spends the rest of their life searching for. Without knowing why, they search for permission. Permission to rest. Permission to need things. Permission to not be okay. Permission to be small. In a world that made them big before they were ready. They search for someone to take care of them. The way they took care of everyone else. They search for safety in relationships. But because they never learned what safe feels like, they often mistake intensity for safety. Because walking on eggshells is what love felt like when they first learned it. And they search for their childhood, not consciously. In the children's films that make them cry for no reason they can explain. In the simple foods that bring a comfort with no logical reason. In the way they light up around children. Because children are allowed to be what they never were. That childhood is not lost. It is waiting. If you grew up too fast, hear this. The strength you developed was real. The capability you built was real. The person you became under impossible conditions is real and remarkable. But the child underneath all of that strength is also real, and they deserved better than what they got. You were not mature for your age. You were a child in pain who had no other choice but to adapt, and you did, remarkably, at a cost nobody should have asked you to pay. You are allowed to put it down now, not all of it, not immediately, but piece by piece, the way it was built. The child who was never allowed to be small deserves to find out what that feels like. Blott knows.